Good day to all. Welcome to Extreme Recap. At the beginning of the first film, a young man is drawing an apple with great care. As the man finishes, we see a sketch that is poorly drawn, implying that he is not an expert. There is no one else in the room, and there is complete silence. All of a sudden, something moves inside the shut cabinet, frightening the man. He apprehensively moves toward it, believing that it is a mouse. In any case, to his shock, an apple has showed up out of the blue. The man is totally bewildered for some time, however at that point he draws an obvious conclusion and understands that his sketch has really woken up to test his hypothesis. He takes out his notebook and begins drawing a $100 bill. He rushes excitedly to the cupboard after getting down. He finds the $100 bill when he opens it. After examining it for a few seconds, the man comes to the conclusion that it is very real. He then, at that point, energetically surges back to his love seat and portrays a pile of cash. When he completes a major wad of money, marvelously shows up inside the pantry. Presently, the man is rich and strong. He is also an apple. He starts sketching a voluptuous woman like any other straightforward would, so all he needs is an. Notwithstanding, amidst it, somebody shows up at the entryway and the man goes to check. He leaves the sketch unfinished in his notebook on the table. The lady's head and whole lower half is absent inevitably. When the man gets back to the room, he hears an unexpected thump on the cabinet. He realizes at this point that his sketch, which was incomplete, has taken shape. A terrifying hand slowly emerges from the covered nice at the end of the movie. It's likely that there are boobs there. In the second movie, Bing, a man who is extremely lustful and overweight, is the main character. He runs a private investigation firm as its manager. However, whenever he encounters a female client, he loses focus and begins to fantasize about her because he has only one goal in life: to have as much coitus as possible. He usually goes home at 5 a.m., but if beautiful women come in asking for help, he might stay until even after midnight. How devoted this man is to his illicit pastime. Unrivaled. At some point, Susan, a young woman, comes to see him in his office and scrambles to explain that her husband has been missing for a week. However, he doesn't even pay attention to her words because he is so intent on observing her body parts. He is actually imagining doing it right now with her. At the point when Susan argues for help, Bing wakes up from his fantasy and vows to begin the examination quickly. However, in reality, he has no concern for her husband. He just needs her. Later in the evening, we learn more about who we are. He doesn't like relationships and has never been married. At the point when he feels stirred, he calls his similarly robust secretary, Gina, and does it with her, but he has gotten bored doing her so many times. He used to be called Bang, but now, well, you'll see the picture at the office the next day. Right, Bing is doing what he usually does, which is watching adult films. Susan then storms in with evidence, which might actually help her track down her missing spouse. Ben takes it from her and guarantee her that they will track down the man. He then suggests that they meet for lunch at a nearby restaurant because he sees an opportunity. There, we can continue discussing the case. True to form, an innocent Susan acknowledges without pondering it. Shortly thereafter, he and his juniors go to his location to look into the missing man. Nonetheless, he rapidly gets exhausted and chooses to pee when Bing unzips. But the penis are bent, and I thought that was it for the penis. He is left in complete awe. Maybe he has seen a phantom. Without burning through his time, Ben drives off in his vehicle. He surprises himself by rejecting a call from Susan along the way. He eventually makes an appointment with his usual doctor and discusses the situation. Bing shockingly shows that his manhood has shrunk significantly by taking off his pants. Yes, it has. Boom. Up until this morning, everything was in order. Yet, presently things are unique. Tragically, sadly, the specialist is similarly stunned and confused in the entirety of his long stretches of clinical experience. He saw nothing vary this way. He only says that he hopes it returns tomorrow after taking some Viagra. Tonight, Ben consumes the pills and hits the hay. To see if something supernatural is attempting to take away his manhood, he even sets up a camera nearby. Tragically, when he gets up the following morning, he understands what is happening has deteriorated. The manhood is reduced to even smaller proportions. Before long, He'll have much more modest PP energy than Bezos, scared by this being frantically attempts to look for help. Thus, he goes out of control across the city, uncovering his small PP to everybody he meets, being shows it to a person at the drug store, his youngsters at the workplace, and, surprisingly, irregular individuals at the general store. He travels to the Himalayas and pleads for assistance at a monastery when nothing works. A specific monk comes forward and says, "We can eliminate its evil." Oh, this thrills a being. Additionally, he encourages the monks to begin the procedure. Hey, bows are beating me off. Yet, all they do is beat him up with sticks until he falls oblivious. In the following scene, Ben visits his PCP by and begs as an answer. His manhood is barely discernible at this point. Doc, the other men around me all look like Google. Sadly, the doctor states that this terrible disease cannot be cured. The best anyone can hope for at this point is to appeal to God that it doesn't disappear totally. In any case, our hero won't abandon his most valuable resources with such ease that evening prior to nodding off, he intends to tie a rope around his masculinity. Have fun. Unfortunately, Gina Barges, his secretary, enters the room at the same time, looking for something to do, and when she sees him in that state, she is surprised. Gina is baffled by the fact that the manhood she adores and holds so dear has now shrunk to the size of a pea. The two are thrown into a state of panic when it suddenly begins to shrink once more. Gina tries to hold it with the rope as hard as she can, but it's too late. There is nothing left for Bing to live for now that his manhood has vanished into thin air. Gina leaves Bing's room at the end of the movie, probably because she has lost interest in him. A young woman is driving alone in her car on Halloween night. She has all the earmarks of being lost and terrified, because all around there is only wilderness and science. So she takes a U-turn and goes to the closest service station to request bearings to her. Misfortune. There is nobody around. Restless, the lady escapes her vehicle and thumps at the entryway. Right after that, the attendant storms in and scolds a strange-looking clown. The last option has clearly spread his fertilizer all around the restroom. The attendant says she will call the police if the clown doesn't leave, and the woman looks shocked and confused. He likewise cautions that he has a firearm, which he won't hold back to utilize. The clown seems a little enraged by the statement, but he decides to leave without making any noise. The attendant then explains the directions to the woman while assisting her with gas and other essential supplies. Out of nowhere, an uproarious bang is heard from the store. The chaperone gradually goes inside to examine, yet he stays away forever, tragically. Following 10 minutes, the lady ends up being stressed and heads inside the store too when she arrives at a specific room. She is sickened by what she sees. After brutally killing the attendant earlier, the clown is now dissecting him piece by piece. In the following scene, we see the lady anxiously heading out in her vehicle. She has a go at cautioning the specialists about the homicide. However, poor reception prevents the call from being received. She sees the clown waiting for her on the side of the road at that exact moment. Maybe he is magically transported to the area. Luckily, the woman drives off before he can reach her. Inevitably, she detects a vehicle out and about and approaches it for help. However, the driver has been brutally assaulted, probably by the same clown, to her horror. This prompts the lady to rapidly get back in her vehicle and drive away, sadly. Additionally, she attempts to call her boyfriend. We can see that the clown managed to get into the back seat of her car in some way. He attempts to choke her by abruptly covering her face with plastic. However, the woman is able to get away by abruptly applying the brakes. After that, she walks into the forest and runs until she finds an abandoned warehouse. Despite the dark and unnerving, the lady chooses to take her risks. She enters and uses a metal rod to bar the door. Before long, the jokester shows up and begins beating on the entryway from the opposite side. However, he vanishes when he is unable to open it. A few hours cruise by, yet the lady actually doesn't dare to go out as she attempts to rest. Abruptly, the jokester shows up through the ground and gets her. After that, he whips her several times and beats her. She was in extreme pain when he called it his happy whip. However, the woman manages to stab the clown with her own knife in retaliation. After that, she stabs him a few more times before fleeing. The woman soon reaches the road, where she is fortunate to meet a passerby who notices her condition. He lets her in right away and asks what happened. The woman simply says, "Let's go, please," because she is currently unable to provide any explanation. He is coming, but unfortunately, within a few seconds, the tenacious clown drives up in his own car to them, shoots a passerby, and dies. Because of this, the vehicle driven by the latter loses control and crashes into a tree. The woman wakes up and finds herself in the operating room of the clown. Regrettably, he has cut away her hands and legs. Additionally, he has written disparaging remarks on her body. The film closes as the jokester lets out a twisted chuckle while the lady shouts with sickening dread, "Geez, that jokester is a genuine sack of poop." The last film is set in a tragic reality where beast spirits actually exist. One night while a ship is navigating a dangerous storm, it unexpectedly goes under assault by a Goliath crab-like animal named Fino Case. It quickly kills a few sailors with its lethal claws, forcing the remaining group to flee into the cellar. Later, a vote among the survivors is held to decide who will confront the Santa Pod. Eventually, a bashful however crafty man named Torin is picked. He tries to run away at first, but his friends pick him up and throw him near the bunker where he is now living. Having no choices giggled, Torrance gradually advances ground floor and defies the monster. To his shock, the Phenopath can now use the voice of one of the sailors it killed earlier to speak. It keeps saying to me, "I need meat." Faden Island. Jake, Torn is alarmed by the grisly sight, yet he likewise gets a thought. He strikes a deal with the opposition at the time. He'll transport it to the island. In exchange, it will need to spare him. Shockingly, the monster concurs and steps back, leaving a path of blood and digestive organs afterward. Torn rapidly goes through the midsection until he sees as an exceptional key. He heads upstairs in the following scene to inform his friends that he has struck a deal. However, before they can ask him any more, he races to the commander's room and opens a protected utilizing the key he saw as before. Following that, Torin pulls out a gun and yells at them to back off. One of the sailors tries to rebel after he announces that he will now be in charge when everyone descends. Victorian throws him into the bunker to teach him a lesson, where the beast immediately devours him. This Torn tells everyone in his room that the Santa Pod wants to go to Faden Island because it can live freely there and kill many humans. Anyway, Torn has a superior thought since the monster isn't great at geology. He wants to lead it to a different island without people on it. Although the plan is a rescue one, thousands of lives will be saved if it succeeds. But Torn doesn't want to make the choice on his own. Therefore, he wants everyone to vote instead. As a result, he presents each of them with a piece of paper and prompts them to select one of the two options. After a while, the results are shown, and Torin is furious when he says that two people voted to take the Faden Islands, also known as the Fenope. He then kills them in front of everyone with his gun. He then dumps the dead bodies into the basement, where the Phenoface eats them up. Immediately, in the morning, when everyone is already preoccupied with their work, the Phenopath is shockingly discovered by Torin when he goes to the basement. Hatched its young. Now, the boat is being surrounded by several thousand tiny creatures. To make matters worse, everyone is starving and demands food. On the other hand, the remaining sailors are getting sick of Torrance's leadership at the moment. Therefore, they intend to eliminate him. They attack him while he is sleeping as they slowly make their way up to his room. He is not, however, in his bed, as it turns out. Torrance kills his fellow sailors one by one as he suddenly appears behind them. He dumps all of the dead bodies into the basement following the massacre, where they are consumed in a matter of seconds. There was now only Torrent and one more sailor left. In any case, as they talk, he unexpectedly pushes the mariner into the storm cellar, uncovering that when he led the vote before, each one had casted a ballot to take the then resistance to Faden Island. They were all against saving the lives of innocent people. Torin finally faces the opposition from before himself and annihilates the barrels, spilling oil out of control. Then he takes shots at the light, which quickly bursts into flames and establishes the spot burning. After this, he escapes from the basement in some way and jumps into the sea, an escaped boat, where he is already stationed. The Pod of Snow, on the other hand, tries to get out of the basement as fast as possible. It almost breaks through the ceiling and escapes. In any case, all of a sudden, a blast happens, killing the monster alongside its kids. The film closes as the boss Torn gradually rows away from the blast. Turn on notifications. Please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.